So, video two. I know you're all excited. Um, so, why should you learn about other cultures that are different from your own? We're going to, like I said, break down this essay and see what you did well and what is expected of you in your writing. Um, First of all, here's the writing rubric, and you all should have one right now. It says I highlighted and numbered each section so that we can talk about it. The first section, and you might not understand all of what it says here, but I will hopefully try to explain and show you an example of this in Mrs. Moreau's writing. She writes to informative and explanatory text to examine a topic and convey ideas, concepts, and information through the selection, organization, and analysis of relevant content. So relevant content meaning it has to be about culture, um, and most likely not about dinosaurs. So in her essay, you're obviously going to be looking for when she talks about um, culture and a development of ideas. So I numbered that number one. It's right here. I thought she did a really good job in this part of the essay, developing her ideas about culture and kind of tying it all together. Um, so it's informative. It is also somewhat persuasive, and it is very clear with the way she presented it. That It's very clear that it's about culture, and you read it and it flows very nicely, and you totally understand that the topic is about culture, and it stays on topic, and that's very important. So I thought this was a really good job of writing informative, explanatory text. It examines a topic, it conveys ideas to us and concepts through selection and organization of relevant content. So she brought, which we'll get into a little bit later, a little bit of info from other sources. That's really important, and that is her analysis of relevant content. Um, Another example of that is right here. There are horrible examples throughout that demonstrate how ignorance and intolerance can lead to conflict. Once again, analysis of the relevant content. Um, so really this is about organizing and making sure that you have relevant content and you're talking about culture and it flows very nicely, and the ideas make sense. All right, next section of the rubric. Number two, introduces a topic clearly previewing what is to follow. Organize ideas, concepts, and information. So, introducing a topic, usually you want to do that in the beginning. So, number two, right here, I thought she did a really good job here defining what culture was, because you have to assume your audience doesn't necessarily know what culture is. If I'm going to do an informative video or description of how to dribble a basketball between my legs, I had best explain what the basketball is and a little bit about the sport before I do that, especially if people don't know anything about basketball. So, anyways, she does a good job of defining culture and saying it's significant. It makes a community, and goes through examples of it. And so she clearly previews what she's going to be talking about. And she especially does this with the last sentence, it's her thesis. We study other cultures so that we can help the world be more peaceful. And so helping the world be more peaceful, and that is essentially what the meat and potatoes of her essay is going to be. So the rest of this should flow and follow from her thesis. We study other cultures so that we can help the world be more peaceful. That's what our essay is going to be about. All right. Next section, number three, organizes ideas, concepts, and information using strategies such as definition, classification, compare and contrast, cause and effect. I'll show you an example of that. Number three, right here, she organizes ideas, concepts, and information uses strategies such as definition, classification, compare and contrast, cause and effect. I felt she did this right. Right here, she defined right up here xenophobia. She defined what genocide is. So she defined those words and classified them, and uh, underneath, people can be treated poorly or even persecuted when their culture is not valued. So when that happens, genocide could happen, xenophobia could happen. So she does a good job of defining those words, classify them underneath people being treated poorly. All right. Next section. It's clearly not the right tab. Okay. Includes formatting for example, headings, graphics, charts, multimedia. When useful in aiding your comprehension, you could find a graph or something that's relevant to the topic and put it in here. You do not need to do that. If you were to put any kind of visual aid, make sure you explain what it means in your essay. Don't just throw it in there and just leave it there for the audience to just read through and be like, well, what does this even mean? Make sure you do that. I'm sure your favorite YouTuber don't just put up random stuff on their YouTube video that and don't explain it or at least mention it. So number 5, uses appropriate transitions to create cohesion. Cohesion means something's coming together, and clarify the relationship among ideas and concepts. So she does a good job. That's number 4. I'm sorry, number 5. Right up here, she had mentions we should all be able to live safely and respect and appreciate those who are different. So once again, she's bringing down information from up here, respecting people who are different and avoiding being xenophobic or avoiding those kind of nasty terms, and bringing that theme all throughout her entire essay. So as you're reading the essay, there should be some cohesion to it, meaning it should all link together kind of like a puzzle. So you're not just going off on a tangent and talking about random scientific facts. It's all about culture, and it all interweaves together, and is all about the benefits of knowing about other cultures. So making sure that your essay does that, and using transition words is really important. And of course, the themes are so important to weave through your entire essay. She does a really good job with that. Almost done here. Number 6, provides a concluding statement or section that follows from and supports the information or explanation presented. So a concluding statement is at the end. Right over here, it says, I would assume that this is her concluding statement at the very end. She does a really good job of saying what can happen if you do learn about other cultures. You might make a new friend, just like John Dutcher. In that video example, actually did make new friends with people that lived around him. And, and it's all he did was just open his mind up a little bit. And of course, that's something you can even add into your essays. Of course, Mrs. Moreau didn't want to take all the good evidence. So what the point is, you need to wrap it up. You need to say why it's important and maybe give an example. And she did that throughout her entire conclusion. All right, last section, one of the most important for me, and I didn't highlight this at all because there's enough highlights on the essay. Number 7, develops the topic with relevant facts, definitions, concrete details, quotations, or other information and examples. So I felt in her essay, number 7, the last little part, develops the topic with relevant facts, definitions, concrete details, quotations. She uses a quote from Cohen in the very first, one of the first readings that we had. Of course, she quotes and directly from there, and then of course off of there, she explains how there's horrible examples throughout that demonstrate how ignorance and intolerance can lead to conflict. So kind of explaining what the quote means. Don't just throw a quote in there and then just leave it at that. Always explain it. According to this, I have 29 seconds left, so I'm going to finish up here. That is essentially what we want in your essays. If there's this section here, don't worry about that. But these 3 sections, I have 7 subsections that I hopefully explained. And I'll give you more details on this later on. But thank you for watching, and I hope that you can use this information to write better.